Rony, thank you so much for being here.
Antoine, thank you for having me.
Rony, you're the founder and CEO of FounderConnects and the Youth Startup Program. So first, I want to
Mhm.
ask you about the Founder Connects. I'm gonna
Yeah,
read what it says. A private community where UAE founders work together to boost sales, bundle offers, expand reach, and grow faster. My question to
mhm.
you is, there are so many groups and forums online for founders and communities. How is that any different?
It's a good question, actually, Antoine. I didn't expect your question to be that specific, but great one. Look, at the end of the day, where our community is moderated. So the more moderation, we kind of implement. And when I talk about moderation, we're moderating it in order to get the best out of everyone. Right? So there's some kind of procedures that we put in order to somehow achieve a lot more than an online, forum or any other WhatsApp group that you might have that isn't moderated, and you're just trying to just, shoot things left and right and hope it would land on some kind of collaboration. Whereas our community, because it's quite moderated, there's a system in place, there's an approach in place. That's why a lot of our members, they tend to get the most value out of it. And when speaking about Founder Connects itself, it's because as soon as you join the community, you're matched with a group of people. So we're not that community where you join and then you go like, okay, great, I'm around people, I'm in a WhatsApp group, and that's it. There's a lot of communities that are based on just WhatsApp groups. You can join them, and that's it for you. It's upon you, to try to figure your stuff out, right? Whereas once you join Founder Connects, you literally get matched with a group of 10 founders. You're the 10th, actually. Other founders that are very similar to you. So let's say you're a pre-seed tech startup. You're gonna be matched with other pre-seed tech startups, all right? Maybe even seed, okay, stage. And eventually, these people are people that actually went through the journey and are going through the same journey that you're going through. So they have a lot to share. So imagine whenever you have like sometimes I don't know if you've had these meetups with a friend and then you're just sharing a lot of notes with each other and then you go like, wow, what a conversation, right? So imagine doing the same thing with nine other founders where they're all sharing their experiences, their advice, their recommendations. Imagine the value that you can get out of that basically, right? So that's why we kind of the community is all about tackling challenges together. And whatever the challenge is, every single month you're going to have a challenge as a founder. So you'll come in to this, we call them founder squads. Okay, they're done virtually for 90 minutes. You come in with these nine other founders, and then every single founder tends to, share their challenges. And these nine other founders, part of your squad, they share back, how they cracked this challenge. And you get, these squads, they tend to rotate every single 3 months. So therefore, because it rotates every single 3 months, some of them tend to become friends. So they start meeting outside that community setting, basically. And the reason why we rotate them every 3 months because we want them to, get different perspectives, new opinions and so forth. So yeah, I mean, it's very different. Going back to your question, it's very different because there's a system in place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you've built something based on a based on your personal journey. So can you step back a
Yeah,
bit and understand why you decided to build this? Because it sounds like a very elaborate plan. So it's definitely
yeah,
not just a group,
yeah,
moderation,
yeah.
matchmaking. There's so much involved. So how did you come up with all this?
So my first startup was 8 years ago. So I've been in the startup world for maybe more than 12, 15 years, something like that. But I don't know if I'm gonna call these first tools that I've built a startup. Okay. The only reason is because, it was just a tool, a widget maybe that I've built. Some of them I sold, some of them I failed in it. Until 8 years ago, I actually built my first official form of a startup where I had an advisory board, I had funding, I had, all that structure of a startup. And it was in the US. And I was, I'm based here in Dubai. My co-founder is based in the US. And basically, I was working, with the time zone of the US. So in Dubai, I used to work like from 9 p.m. until, until the morning, basically. So this journey was about 7, 8 years with my first startup. And on the third year, this is where I started joining because I was the CEO of the startup. So I started joining a lot of communities because I was trying to be on ground without being there. So I wanted to, to be there, right? So I started joining a lot of communities, any kind of community that was, you know, that had the word entrepreneurship, tech founders, whatever it is, I was there. So I started joining these communities on year three, and this is where I kind of realized, the value that I actually got out of them. And I was like, you know what, damn, I wish I actually joined them from day one. Okay. Because I could have saved on a lot of mistakes that I've done. I could have saved on a lot of money because of these custom mistakes. And most importantly, I could have saved a lot of time because sometimes, you do a lot of things, all right, and time is very essential for you. Uh, and the, look, money, the thing is with money is you always hope to get it back, right? And sometimes you can, but the only thing that you can't get back is time, basically. So time is as important as losing money on custom mistakes. So therefore, I was like, okay, you know what? Since then, I just knew what I wanted to do next. I wanted to build a community for, the UAE because I was raised here in order to get these founders closer to each other so they can tackle these challenges together, helping them save, costly mistakes and time, basically. And by the way, that's how the idea started. And it didn't take me long. I was like, one day I was sitting, I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for that idea. Within a week, I had the MVP up and live.
I always ask people, what kind of mentorship did you have? And usually they can pinpoint to this one or two individuals. But I feel like you've taken this idea of mentorship, and instead of having this one person who stumbled upon your life, you actually put
Yep,
them in a conversation together, people who have been through
yep.
the exact same thing. So you kind of have like these specific mentors for that specific stage in their startups.
That is very true. That's very true. Look, I'm with mentorship. I had my own, mentors, but I definitely, like you said it, having someone that's actually going through what you're going through and understands the details of it, because sometimes mentors, they either they're focused on specific verticals, so therefore they only know the details of the specific vertical, or they just, forgot the details because it's been a while. They haven't done, for example, SEO, let's say. Okay. So, but founders right now are going through, whatever you're going through. So a lot of these founder squads, we hear like, hey, you know what? I have been trying, for example, a cold email outreach for the past 2, 3 weeks and it's not working. Someone else jumps in and goes like, hey, look, we've been doing this for 2 years. And that's the way to do it. So these founders are actually doing it right now. So they're going through what you're going through right now as we speak. So therefore, their knowledge is more raw, is more updated, you know, um, and it helps. It helps because they're actually doing it.
One of the biggest themes of entrepreneurship is loneliness when building a company. Do you feel like this is one
Oh
of the
yeah.
problems you're solving?
Yes, that's I th that's our goal basically. So we're like, all right, what's the mission here at the end of the day? I wanted to put a mission for our community, and not just build another community. Because look, there's plenty of communities out there, but most of them are like WhatsApp groups, just events, But I was like, I want to build the community as if I was building my own tech startup. All right, I needed a mission, I needed a vision, I needed, a process, I needed a system. So, and literally because of, my journey being a first-time founder, plus speaking to a lot of founders, I realized, isolation was but one of the biggest problems out there. And a lot of these startup organizations, accelerators, VCs, um, other online communities, they all they all agree that there's a very big percentage of these founders that are going through isolation. And speaking about isolation, we're gonna so isolation is the umbrella, and under this umbrella, there are a couple of factors. All right, the first factor is about you not being able to share with your friends, let's say, because most of the founders that I spoke with, all right, not a lot of them, or actually most of them don't have friends that are entrepreneurs. And these friends that are not entrepreneurs, they don't understand the hustle. They're not going to understand the hustle, even if they're doing extremely well on a corporate level. Entrepreneurship is something and corporate is something else. So this is when it comes to friends. Okay, they always tell me whenever we sit our friend with our friends, they always try to get this advice that is not relevant, maybe more relevant for corporate, but not relevant for the startup world. Okay. So this is number one. Number two is the family. Obviously, family is the thing that you don't want to touch in order not to concern them, right? You don't want to concern your partner. You don't want to concern your kids. You don't want to concern your parents. It's something that, it's a challenge that you took. So therefore you will go through it. Although, even though, you'll get the best support system on a family level, you just don't want to concern them. That's it. Okay. This is number two. Number three are basically is basically your team. Okay. Same thing with your team. I've heard a lot of people saying, yeah, I have the best team and I can't share much with them. There's a reason why. It's not because there's a positive reason why. And not because you don't want to share with your team because you just don't trust them. On the contrary, even if you trust your team so much, there's sometimes you just want to keep the morale very high. You just want to keep them motivated. There's a lot of small things that you don't want to, you know, get them busy with. All right. So therefore, you just don't want to concern them too. So that's why usually founders, they have these three doors, whether friends, family, and team. And every single door, like the team door, you don't want to open it. Okay. The family door, you don't want to open it. You don't want to concern them. And the friends, most of the time, you don't have friends that really understands journey. All right. So therefore, not a lot of help from there. So that's why, all right, a lot of these founders, they tend to face isolation during building. And that's where we come in, all right, because we're kind of matching you with a group of 9 other founders that are actually going through the same stuff you're going through, the same journey, the same, headache that you're going through. Everything becomes relevant. And that's the beauty of these founder squads.
What kind of personas and profiles do you usually get? Is it always the same, like 40-year-old
Early.
males and like
No,
what do they
it
look like?
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter on an age level, all right? Like we have people like we have a couple of founders that are above 50 years old, and we have founders below 30 years of age. But in terms of startup stage, usually most of them are early stage, and it makes sense. It makes sense. You're not going to see maybe a Series C level, all right? Because these Series C, they probably have their own advisory board or their own board of board of directors. They probably have a lot more resources in order to equip themselves to be much stronger. But usually early stage startups, they don't have these kind of resources. And therefore, that's where we come in as a community.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, but I was really looking at the individuals. Like, is it a very wide range of people that come in? Because for the people listening, sometimes we feel like founders should only be a certain type of people, like people who are, very young, who can take a lot of risk, or other people think, no, it's people who have 20 years of experience
Yeah.
that are now ready to start their own business. So do you see all of those?
Believe it or not, there's a lot of things that, the older age knows that the younger age don't, and vice versa is true. So therefore, it's not really about, the experience, type of experience, because once, so I met two members, all right, that were CEOs of great companies, great companies, CEOs. They were handling everything basically. And then when they came to build their own app, it was another thing. It was a new life for them. They started, they had to start asking questions like, all right, what do we have to do when it comes to SEO? What do we have to do when it comes? Maybe they're really good at, handling big teams and putting a great vision and, tackling this mission. Okay, because they've been doing this as a CEO of great companies. But then when they want to get into the small details, okay, that's where they see themselves failing. Yeah.
Ronnie, I kind of drowned in this conversation. Well, we got to keep moving to the youth startup program because that's also a very fascinating part of what you're building. So let me read this. You secured partnership with over 18 universities and schools across the country, and you built a network of over 40 educational institutions. What is the youth startup program? How does it work? And what kind of services are you offering?
Sorry, Antoine, I'm just gonna have to open the door
No
just a
problem.
second.
No problem.
Yeah, so look, just when it comes to the youth startup program, it's basically it's a simple program where we teach university students to build their own tech startups. So when I was basically launching Founder Connects, this is where I was speaking with a lot of founders, all right, part of our community. And then I realized, we have a lot of, we started having a lot of resources. So I was like, how can I, use these resources and kind of do something for the youth too, and not just founders that are already doing something? Because how can we basically in one word, how can we help these students of university, all right, avoid costly mistakes that we actually went through, right? So that's where I came up with the Youth Startup Program. It's basically a program within a month. We teach these university students how to launch their own tech startups, including building their own MVP. Lucky for us, okay, AI is helping us today to help students build their own MVP within a couple of days. Back then, we didn't have that luxury when we didn't have AI, right? But today we have that luxury of building an MVP within a day or two. And we're not talking here about complex apps. We're talking about an MVP. At the end of the day, what I learned out of all this, all these years in the startup world, it's not about building the app. It's really about figuring out if you're going to find someone that will pay for you for your app. Okay, so that was the whole point. So we're like, all right, how can you build something in the fastest way possible, just so you can put it out there and then test the waters? So, and that's what we kind of teach in the program itself. And within a month, all right. So basically, the building happens within 3 weeks. The fourth week is more of a competition, of a challenge. So we can mirror the challenges of you getting traction. So they have their own elevator pitch video, and then we just tell them like, hey, you know what? This week is all about voting. So, but therefore, you need to really get some traction to your own video, which mirrors the experience of getting traction to your own app, for instance.
Mm.
So we kind of teach them all the aspects of the startup, whether it's, figuring out the problem, figuring out the solution for the problem, interviewing, your potential assumed clients in order to optimize the solution, if the solution is going to work or not. And then once you figure out a solution, this is where you go in building your own MVP and learning how to do a financial forecast. And craft a go-to-market strategy. So everything that is very important, all right, to launch your own tech startup, we literally give these students everything within a month, basically.
Mhm. That's
So because look, honestly, a lot of these students, they think, you know what, I need to build something perfect. They look, we had this problem, by the way. We all had this problem. When we were university students, we always wanted to build the perfect thing. Maybe back then, at my time, maybe we all wanted to build this other Facebook, okay? Because Mark Zuckerberg or Facebook was it was the hot topic back then. And it's still the same for these students nowadays. It didn't change basically. So they still want to build this perfect thing. So, and unfortunately, it doesn't work by building the perfect thing. It works by really talking to your assumed users if they really want what you're trying to sell.
That's really fascinating. And yes, I think a lot of especially the new generation, are very curious. I mean, even for me, like a decade ago, people weren't obsessed with creating their companies. I think they were more trying to get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the bigger companies. But nowadays, I feel
yeah,
like it's different. I feel like everyone wants to start their own thing because of like
yeah.
you said, the tools available that makes it easier. So, Ronnie, I want to end with this. You're meeting so many people. You're meeting so many people on the younger side, experienced, not experienced, founders, aspiring founders. How do you manage all these relationships, and how did it affect you, hearing all those different stories?
Sorry, I think you were cutting at the end. So how do I manage all these
How do you manage
relationships?
all these relationships? Is it just transactional? They get in the program and it's over, or do you maintain them over time? And also, how did it
Yeah.
affect you personally from hearing all those different stories?
So number one is once they join the community, all right. We always our doors are always open. So a lot of these founders, they tend to reach out to me, or I have a head of community that manages a lot of the community aspect too. So we always have these discussions with these founders. And one is so important for us, not only because we want to be there for them, but we want to learn more from them to understand how we can actually optimize their experience within the community itself, right? So that's why it's so important for us to always be there. And number two, I'm actually part of these founder squads myself. I attend every single founder squad, not as a moderator, but as a founder. Okay, because at the end of the day, there's even as a serial entrepreneur, right? Even if, even as any serial entrepreneur, they always have something to learn. Yes, that's true. We know how to reduce our risks because we've already done the mistake back then. But there's plenty of new mistakes that we tend to face as well. All right, because serial entrepreneurs are always there to try new things. All right. So I as well learn a lot from these people. As much as I give out my experience, my, thoughts about whatever challenges that they're going through, I tend to share my own challenge and then learn from them if they have anything in mind. So I'm a user of my own product. Let's put it that way. So I put myself there. I want to be there. I always told my head of community and all the moderators, like, look, I'm gonna be part of this group as a founder. Don't look at me as the CEO. All right. So treat me like you're treating them because I want to be in that experience. So I enjoy these discussions. I enjoy them. I appreciate them, especially whenever, we kind of crack one challenge during that specific session. It really feels good. It feels good that I've built that, seeing that these challenges are being cracked on the spot. And a lot of people, and we tell a lot of people after this challenge, all right, that's your goal for this month. This is what you need to do in order to crack your challenge. Because we're probably, gonna hold you accountable the next month. So kind of holding people accountable as well, putting that accountability in place pushes them. And a lot of founders told us, you know what, we needed someone to push us. Man, as a founder, Antoine, as a founder, you have thousands of things on your head. And it's so easy for you to derail, all right, from that path and focus and start looking elsewhere. And I think it's human behavior. Like so, you should see what happens to me when I get like a new AI has just launched. I'm like, come on, it's 11 p.m. Like I don't feel like exploring it right now. And then I go like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna explore it. And then I just look at the watch and I go like, you know what? It's already 4 a.m. So there's plenty of opportunities for us to just, derail from the original focus, okay? Because we live in a world that is so noisy. And the reason why, like, like, now I'm a bit more equipped to control these. And the reason why I'm giving you the example of checking out this new AI tool, because whenever I check them out, I go like, you know what? I actually have a new idea to use this. And this new idea becomes a strategy, and then this new strategy becomes a 3-month plan, right? So I'm more equipped to control this. Okay. But a lot of first-time founders don't, didn't have that experience. And they get easily
Mm.
derailed. So a lot of them, they come back to us, they tell us like, that's actually a great thing for you guys to push us forward, hold us accountable.
A continuous learner and a user of his own product. Thank you so much for doing this, Ronnie. It was super interesting.
Yeah, Antoine, thank you. Thank you for having me.